Byron Buxton is on the All-Star team and in the Home Run Derby. Joe Ryan and Jhoan Duran are not in the All-Star game. You probably already know, but we will tell you how excited you should be for Buck and how mad you should be for Joe and Jhoan. But we can't tell you anything until you get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Every day. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer who has never been to Atlanta for a baseball game, no matter the stadium. But I am a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warne, who would have gone to Atlanta, but they haven't let him in since he lifted Ron Gant off of first base in the 91 World Series. Oh, wait, that was Kent Hrbek. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. You can find our work at the Access Twins newsletter and at the Zone Coverage blog. On the podcast today, Byron Buxton is having the best year of his career, and he's headed to Atlanta for the All-Star game. Buck grew up in small-town Georgia, and he'll have his family there, and one of them will even be helping him with the Home Run Derby. Also, Buxton has a no-trade clause. Just thought I'd mention it. Joe Ryan and Jhoan Duran have not made the All-Star team yet, but there's always injury replacements and other kinds of replacements. We'll see what kind of a case both have. The Twins took 2 out of 3 from the Rays, lost in extras in the finale to miss out on the sweep, but it's their first series victory since early June. Yikes. The Cubbies are coming, tra-la, tra-la. Watch out for Pete Crow-Armstrong, whose mom was the actor in Little Big League who played Billy Haywood's mom. Ashley Crow must be so conflicted right now. But first, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Brandon, this is a Byron Buxton hype episode. He's going to the All-Star game for the first time, I think, in 3 years. He started that year. He's not starting this year, but he's also in the Home Run Derby, which is new. Any concerns about Byron Buxton in the Home Run Derby, like blowing out his oblique or messing up his swing or doing something else that Twins fans worry about?
I'm worried he's going to dominate the field and win at his home, in his home state, just a small town buck living in a lonely world. No, by the way, you mentioned Little Big League. I have the M logo. I am proudly donning today on a vintage outfit that I picked up. You're
very
watching,
Tom Bernanski-like. Put that on. Very Tom Bernanski-like.
If you're watching on YouTube, but if you're listening, then you're just gonna have to imagine it. It's a lot going on with the Twins right now. Taking 2 of 3 from the Rays was big. That would have been the first time the Twins had swept the Rays since they were the Devil Rays in 2006 at the Metrodome. They were really bad. Like, it was almost like when they dropped the Devil is when they became good. It was weird. Incidentally, too, they dropped the Devil and they traded Delman Young.
I was going to make a Tommy Herd, Gary Gaetti reference, but
it's funny how our pre-show chatter and our in-show chatter mirror each other so closely. But it also would have been the chance for the Twins to have 3 straight walk-off wins for the first time since 1987. They did that also it was 3 times in 87 and then 3 times in like 74. But the difference was they were not all in the same series. They had started in one series and ended in another. So it would have been the first time in Twins history that they had 3 walk-off wins in the same series against the same team in a row. And that would have been pretty demoralizing to be on the other side of. Maybe I'm thinking of it as a Twins fan would view it, but I can't imagine being walked off 3 times in a row. They probably were not looking forward to that possibility.
No, it was a nice comeback attempt in Game 3 anyway. Harrison Bader with a tying home run, and I was thinking about that too. That it would have been funny, in a non-funny way on Twins Twitter if that had happened to the Twins, if they had gone to the Rays and won a couple of games late and then or lost a couple of games late and then lost that third game. That would have been pretty demoralizing. The Twins have had enough demoralizing episodes this year. So
people would have fired Rocco Baldelli 3 straight days.
Again,
yeah. Like Falvey and the proxy that is Jeremy Zoll, all those guys, 3 straight days being fired after 3 straight walk-offs. I don't think Twins Twitter could handle it.
But the good news is that series is over. The Cubs are coming in, but Buxton is headed to the home run derby. I think it was the cutest note I ever saw.
Yes.
Betsy had it, but I think other people had it too. Was that Brixton, his oldest son, was like, oh, wow, if this is like home run derby on the video game I play, then someone's going to have to bring daddy a towel. I want to be that somebody. I want to be the towel boy at the home run derby. I thought that was the cutest thing I ever saw.
That's our wholesome superstar right there.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I kind of get nervous when there's a somebody in the home run derby that I'm rooting for, because I don't want them to like hit no home runs and somehow get booed at the home run derby, which I don't know if that's. I guess it's probably happened before.
Double whammy in your home state, though. We can't let Buck do that.
No. But of course, probably what will dominate the discourse when Buck is in the home run derby is all the teams that want to trade for him, and then they'll forget about the no trade clause that he has.
And also, let's just set this apart. If he struggles coming out of the break, look at his numbers in July so far. Nobody outside of Harrison Bader on this team has hit. It's like someone posted a Caleb Thielbar picture recently, knowing full well people would be like, "Oh, his numbers." Oh, it's like Danny Coulombe's here. We don't have to do this. We don't have to covet what used to be ours every single time they have something decent. Jorge Alcala just came up like that too, and it's brutal. It's brutal out there.
Well, Twitter user Twins fan Grant, pointed out that hey, get ready for the rage in a week when Jorge Alcala has accumulated a bunch of games where he hasn't allowed any runs.
Yeah,
because people are going to get so upset. But if you notice the leverage that he's pitched in, very low, and the kinds of pitches that he's thrown, simplified, and the inherited runners that he's allowed to score, numerous. So
more than half of them, and it's not a small number. It was like 7 of 13. Like that's a one way a narrative can be skirted. These aren't my runs. I'm not even supposed to be working today.
Right. That doesn't go on my RA. Don't skid off my nose.
Yeah.
But and there's also a part of the narrative. You mentioned Caleb Thielbar, and people will say, well, the Twins don't have any coaching. They're the worst coach team. But I mean, then how can you explain Danny Coulombe being okay? The coaches didn't mess him up.
Or
so
Thielbar besides.
Exactly. But so people are always kind of looking for something to get outraged about. It doesn't take a lot of brain cells to fire off a tweet. Believe me, I know. And it's just you can sort of lose yourself in the bad discourse easily on Twins Twitter or any topic that you want to talk about. So it's I'm not saying don't go on Twitter, but maybe do it with a jaundiced perspective a little bit. And try not to feed the trolls and Brandon, and do what spread some good news out there with some fact-based reporting. That's what I would try to do.
That's what I would like to do, but it's still I think it's just I have a stench on me that draws people to me, or maybe it's just that I'm the only one who replies to them, and that is the path I've chosen for my life. And it is my own fault. I deserve every bit of heat for that, but I do feed the trolls more than I should.
All right, we're going to feed something by doing our first break, and then when we come back, we will talk more Minnesota Twins baseball. I know that's hard to believe, but that's what we're going to do.
But not before we give a little love to Monarch Money. If you ever wish managing your money felt easier, I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't feel that way. Monarch Money can make that be the case for you, whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, maybe a house, maybe a vehicle. Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. See what I did there? It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, one app, one-stop shop. In addition to managing your money, it helps you build wealth. I know that we all maybe don't need to see or feel like we need to see what our tracking habits look like, whether it's maybe going to get too much of that fast food or maybe spending a little too much money anywhere, frankly. That's what Monarch Money is here to tell you. Is like, hey, just here to tell you an inconvenient truth. Maybe you're spending a little too much money on some food at the grocery store, some candy or something like that. That's what Monarch Money is here for, and having it all in one place. I can't emphasize that enough. You're not juggling different apps, different subscriptions. By the way, Monarch will tell you about your subscriptions and where they're going in case you had forgotten about them. All that sort of stuff. Monarch Money is able to not only help you, but help you massively. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and they'll give you 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get half off your first year.
Locked On Twins, the return. So we've mentioned that Byron Buxton is in at the All-Star game. He's not starting, but he's on the roster. He's in the home run derby. Brixton is planning on bringing him towels. Jhoan, Duran, Joe Ryan, not in the All-Star game, but it's Tuesday morning as we tape, and there still could be one or two pitchers who don't go because of injury or just the timing. You know, if they happen to start on Sunday or Saturday, maybe they won't pitch. So the American League or National League will need replacement players. So Joe Ryan would seem to be, I don't know if he's high on the list. Sometimes we get stories about, well, who's next on the list?
Yeah.
And it comes out later that it turns out that Joe Ryan was next on the list. I don't know if he's next on the list, but let's look at a couple of stats.
Can I ask one thing quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just it came to mind. There are only 3 relievers going to the All-Star game in the AL. Am I remembering wrong that there used to be more relievers?
I mean, sometimes you'd see 4,
So
but
I'm remembering, I always felt like it was like 5, but
no, it has never been that many. It's
Okay.
never been that many. It's hard to get. 3, 4 tops usually, and also Temptations, if you want some great groups from the '60s. But I think what they should probably do is one of two things, and we can actually sort of bring this up, I guess. I saw Randy Johnson tweet about it, and he was coming out against the rule that said every team had to have a player on it. And part of me understands that from the Randy Johnson Ichiro point of view, where we're going to go to the All-Star game and we are going to conquer and we're going to kick ass and we're going to win this game. And from the athlete's standpoint, I understand. But he doesn't think that there should be a rule that every team should have a representative, because that a rule that exists so people like White Sox fans might watch because Shane Smith's in the All-Star game. I don't know how true that is, but there's a certain amount of truth in that, because baseball, in a way, has always been a regional sport, and certainly it's more hyper focused on that these days. So it's still just an exhibition game. It counted for a while. It doesn't necessarily count for a home field advantage anymore or anything like that in the World Series. So, not to be equivocal or wishy-washy or whatever, I see both sides of it. But I think it's probably better that one of two things has to happen. Either there need to be like fewer all-star players, and they need to get rid of that rule, or there need to be more so that every team can have a representative and you can have a bigger chance of everybody who deserves to go going.
Reminds me a little bit of like the debates around college basketball tournament, college football playoff, like 4 teams, then it's 8 teams, then it's 16. And then with CBK, you've always got the first 4 out, or the team that wins the NIT. Could they have maybe made there is a lot of different schools of thought. I guess what's hard for me is, again, I'm wearing the M today. Maybe make sure I get the right side. There were years where that was my only reason to watch was maybe Chuck Knobloch or Ron Coomer get into the game. And so since it doesn't count for anything, I think I'm more along the lines of invite 50 players. I don't care. Not everybody's going to get to play, but that's the risk you run anyway. And it would allow guys like Andrew Abbott to make it and Joe Ryan to make it and whoever else. Maybe then you could have more than 4 relievers. I don't know. I think I'm also a big Hall of Fame guy. So maybe it's just how I am, is more of an inclusive person when it comes to sports accolades and that sort of thing. But honestly, I could see it either way at this point in my life. Like, I'm not watching games just to see a guy play. So that might be why I would steer a little further away from everybody gets represented. But even if it's not everybody's represented, but you make the rosters big so that 14 of the 15 are represented, I'd be fine with that too. The All-Star game, to me, I have a hard time getting too charged up about it. Or like voting. Voting has no appeal to me.
Yeah, a lot of players feel that way too. I think if we look at the results from the players' vote, and we obviously complain about the fans' vote, there is no perfect way to do this.
Right.
To put an all-star team together of the most deserving players. I think at some point you have to stop inviting players if you wanted to have if you're a big Hall guy, if you're a big all-star roster guy, you have to stop at some point because it becomes impractical to have a clubhouse with 50 players in it. It wasn't even when they expanded the rosters to 40 in big clubhouses. It would be like, well, you don't have enough lockers. You don't have enough space for people to walk around. It becomes like less enjoyable. Say again, over.
They don't even have 40 for September call-ups anymore. So it's like you said, it's impractical, or else suddenly you got somebody dressing in the laundry room.
Right. Well, maybe they should just have bigger clubhouses, but the Players Association would love that. But Joe Ryan, 8th in ERA, 8th in Fangraphs WAR, which counts is more fielding independent pitching than it is ERA based, right. I believe. It's the other way around. So, he's roughly having as good a season as Jacob deGrom, but also as Jose Siriano, and a little better than Brian Wu, and kind of a lot better, maybe a half run than Yusei Kikuchi. People were arguing about, well, why is Kikuchi on the team? Because everybody needs at least one player, and that's the Angels guy. So that's sort of where Joe Ryan loses out, but maybe he'll get a chance that way. Duran, it's a little murkier. It's harder to really gauge which relievers are clearly having the greatest impact. People like Josh Hader, and if you go by certain stats, like Griffin Jax is still, he's been very unlucky, and Griffin Jax is still pitching better than Jhoan Duran. He's pitching better than most major leaguers, but he's had some bad luck, and his ERA is a little high. But his FIP, fielding independent pitching, is 191. So Griffin Jax is not letting a lot of people on base. You could argue that he deserves it on that merit alone. So I don't know where Duran is on the list. I would imagine that Joe Ryan, if there's one or two pitchers that don't go, then he'll get a chance.
Well, and he's slated to pitch Saturday against Skeens. So part of me was like, oh, shoot, the Sunday starters, they get, somebody gets replaced them. They go, they probably hang out, but they're not going to appear. Saturday, you could consider Tuesday your side session, right? You go out there, or would be even still probably, because Joe Ryan being named to then not even be able to go. Not saying you wouldn't want to be named just for the sheer fact that you're named. It shows up on your biography for the rest of your life, and afterwards. Is he going to be named and then not be able to pitch anyway is something I thought about.
Well, he could be a guy that there's always one or two pitchers that don't pitch, even with the replacing that goes on. But you have them around just in case you need them for whatever reason. Yeah. So that wouldn't be the end of the world. I don't know if there's a clause in his contract that gives him a bonus for making the All-Star team, but like you said, you could just there it is on your resume. and it's also strange. It's also misleading all-star bids because it's just how the player was doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the popularity contest aspect of it,
They should
if you
do
look at
all-star team though. They should, even if it's in name only.
I mean that's what the second half all-star team is an interesting concept, but that's what the paper all-star the AP all-pro, all MLB teams are. It'd be interesting to look up. Here's a stat, a comparison. How many people have won the Cy Young award but didn't make the all-star team that year? It's probably more than
I think Jhoan.
It's probably a lot. Yeah. Yes, there's probably a lot of examples of that. So keep that in mind too. The all-star bid, the all-star berth is not necessarily who had the best year. It's who had the first, the best 80 or 90 games in the first half.
Was it Chris Shelton or somebody who had a crazy first half? It was.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's guys. I mean, Daniel Vogelbach had one year where he started off hot with Seattle, and then he had like 4 hits in the second half. Maybe not literally, but yeah, it is very much a first half thing. And cheers to guys who come out with their hair on fire. That's great. But
I used to get mad, and I did. I used to get mad that Travis Hafner would never make the All-Star team, and he was leading the league in slugging percentage and on-base percentage. It happened more than once.
He was so scary.
But then, by the end of his career, what was Travis Hafner really ripped off that much? I mean, did he end up having a great career? He was kind of all short-lived too. But,
yeah,
I mean, he was fine, but how much of it was a snub at the time, but then you look at the numbers late in the season and it was less of a snub. So we're not going to snub our advertisers. We've got another commercial break here. And then when we come back, we will talk more Twins. Final segment of Locked On Twins, and we've talked a little bit about the All-Star game and what it means and who's going from the Twins and who's not. And in the final segment, we're going to touch on a couple other things like Charley Walters. Now, the Pioneer Press, they have this column, the Twins fans know who are listening and watching this podcast, where he says all kinds of things that sound like big headlines that would be like front page news, but he buries it at the end of this column.
Shooter. So call him Shooter around these parts. That's his nickname.
If the Pioneer Press is going to put something like bid on the table for Twins ownership, in a blurb, but they're not going to put it on the front page with a big headline, how should we treat that? I have a feeling that maybe we should ignore it. But we're not doing that, are we?
Oh, Shooter's a legendary storyteller and just a tremendous guy. But if like our friend Grant said, if you're going to aggregate anybody, or if you must aggregate, please do not aggregate Charley Walters. Charley is this is what I heard kind of guy. This is what got the guy that'll elbow you in the ribs and tell you a little something. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I also think the natural jump to, well, why haven't they taken it yet? Is like, come on. This is going to be in the vicinity of $2 billion exchanging hands, less closing costs. And I'm just kidding. Whatever all has to be done. This is not a, oh, sure. Yeah. Overnight kind of thing. They would, I'm sure, apply, get accepted, then find out they have the financing. There's layers to this. And there's a reason why, even when we thought things were getting going at opening day, that it would still probably not be until now things were finalized. There's just a lot that has to take place. This organization doesn't really leak things. They signed Carlos Correa at 1 a.m. I think that extends all the way to the top, and the day will come maybe where they just drop off the key and walk away, and we won't have known for very long because, that's just how they operate. That's just how they do things. The
Twins will go out for a pack. The Pohlads will go out for a pack of cigarettes and never come back. That's how we'll know.
Yep.
I did want to ask a couple of things. The trade deadline is coming up. We've joked about Byron Buxton having a trade clause, no trade clause in his contract. And some people are, foaming at the mouth at some of these offers. Well, this is the best offer I've seen yet. It's just some offer that some blogger made up, like us. Like, hey, maybe this would get him to trade Byron Buxton, and it's the Phillies sending Justin Crawford and Andrew Painter the Twins way, as if Byron Buxton will go, hey, that's a fair offer. I think I will waive my no trade clause. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's not like the Twins aren't the only people you would have to convince.
And I love Dave Schenfeld, the guy who wrote it for ESPN. Yeah. And honestly, I just think Godfather offer for a player like Buxton is probably one more truly great prospect. We don't see a lot of those deals nowadays. The days of CC Sabathia for everything you have for 2 months of such a player, those just don't happen anymore. And so the problem is we have an unquenchable thirst for these and power rankings that no matter how much any of these are proven wrong or never happen, we're still going to gravitate to them like moths to a flame. So I see why they're written, but it's why I said not even worth your time. It's not worth even debunking something that is that remotely possible.
It's almost like how you said with Charley Walters, where, you sort of take it, Walters, you take it with a grain of salt, and it's like, hey, I heard this, and like you're pulling up to the bar and hearing just a rumor, basically. You can't.
This is the rare time I'm not feeding the trolls, or I'm just like washing my hands of it.
Now, the only, from the standpoint of the Twins, one reason that Buxton, and they don't really talk about this either. It's funny, they don't put this context in it. If he were to be traded, it would make sense from the standpoint that he's locked up his contract. There's cost certainty for a few years because he signed a deal that actually is not. That's another reason why you don't trade him, because he's not too expensive.
It's not like close to his market value.
No, it's not. You're getting a great value out of having Byron Buxton on your roster. So, and I think with Carlos Correa being the age he is, and hopefully he starts hitting, the Twins, no matter who owns them or what, they should be thinking of steps to compete. If not this year, then next year for certain. And Buxton leaving doesn't really help that.
It made me think of like, oh, we ordered great value Byron Buxton, and the real Byron Buxton showed up. When though all these people who are talking about the Phillies trading for Byron Buxton are going to end up with the "we have Byron Buxton at home" starter package of Luis Robert Jr.
Right. Well, we'll see. He's got an injury right now. He's supposed to. That might, that plus Luis Roberts tanking in the batting average might keep him from being traded.
Somehow his WAR went up after he got hurt. It makes no sense.
It doesn't make that. It's funny. But there is one thing Matthew Leach contributed to one of those articles. 30 things. Yes.
He finally contributed something.
He finally did.
Yeah.
We finally put Matthew to work. Now it's just because he's not on Twitter.
Yeah, which good for him, man. I think he just got knocked up a couple more notches on my power ranking of Minnesota.
If Matthew Leach got knocked up, that would be a story too.
Right.
Twins at the trade deadline. They need a right-handed corner bat. Something we've heard for 2 years.
I thought you said quarterback, and I was like, no,
not Tommy Kramer. No. My responses to that would be like France needs to pick it up. Correa certainly needs to pick it up. There's your right-handed bat. Something to get Larnach out of the lineup against lefties. Larnach's like 29 on WRC plus on against left-handed batters. It's terrible.
Good. That Greg post, the one good Greg post was the one that showed how he's actually hitting righties better this year than last, but his numbers are down because the let him face lefties crowd seems to be winning.
In fairness, though, Matthew Wallner is not hitting right-handed pitcher, but is hitting left-handers.
Yeah, was he like 700 on both ends? Like he's closed that split in a way that you had not anticipated. I think the answer is simple as you send down Kiersey and bring up Austin Martin. That gives you a right-handed bat who can play all over. You're still protected in a lot of positions, or finally bite the bullet and let McCusker get a week full of at-bats or whatever before. I mean, they're facing a lefty on Tuesday night in Imanaga, who's a stud. I mean, it probably would be an unfair first game back, but they're lighting a roster spot on fire with Kiersey. And I saw Matthew Taylor lament that to where I said, well, listen, whoever you bring up is probably not going to play that much. At this point, I think you burn McCusker for a week just to see if he can catch lightning in a bottle and make you reconsider the roster spot of Ty France or someone of that nature.
I don't know for 100% of these right, but I suspected, I had a feeling when they had McCusker up the last time, the Rocco just really didn't want to put him out there, whether it be on defense or thought there's something in the swing that bothers me about. I don't know if he's looking into the future, but
he didn't look that comfortable at the plate. I think
which is understandable.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
But I like the idea of bringing up Martin. Please, no more Larnach against lefties. The Cubs are coming in. You mentioned Shota is pitching Imanaga today. The Cubs have won 8 of 11. They're in conversation for the best record in the league.
Their offense has been crushing for like the last 3 weeks.
Second overall in runs scored, closer to the middle in runs allowed. Pete Crow-Armstrong is having 100th percentile outcome season. He's just been amazing. Of course, his mom was Luke Edwards' mom in Little Big League. So hopefully that they'll put something on the scoreboard about that. I don't know.
Well, and Michael Bush is from here too. He's from Inver Grove Heights, went to Simley. So there's Minnesota angles, local angle everywhere. So it's interesting. Bush over the last 3 weeks has the highest OPS in MLB, and it's like 1,400. He's raised his season OPS almost 100 points in that span. That is so hard to do right now, especially when you started at 850.
Hit 3 home runs in a game against the Cardinals. Chaz Michaelis and someone else gave him up. But so Shota versus SWR. Cade Horton, who I thought was left-handed. Doesn't that sound like a left-hander's name?
Yeah,
Cade Horton?
One of those lefty lying about being left-handed or righty lying about you. Who did you say was the other one? Kyle Hendricks feels like a righty who's lying about being left-handed.
I know what you're saying. Hendricks is a lefty name, but Kyle could be a lefty. Yeah, but Kyle Hendricks, I can just maybe just because I saw him in Chicago, he's a righty all the way. But Cade Horton, I'm like, I assumed he was a lefty, and he's not. Anyway, he's pitching against Festa, and then Colin Ray against Chris Paddock in the finale.
Not the country music singer, which is funny because Chris Paddock, big country music fan. Colin Ray was a staple of my upbringing with, I think he had something with, is he Colin Batten? No, I don't know. I'm sounding like an idiot now because I can't remember off the top of my head, but Colin Ray, big part of my upbringing, CMT. And so country pitcher against a country singer should be a fun one.
So we'll see if the Twins can win 2 straight series. They hadn't won 1 straight series since June 3rd or 4th. So we'll see if they can do that. And we're going to wrap up this episode by reminding you that we want to thank you. We want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen and for your second listen. Check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So before I get drowned out for the music, this is Dave Brown and Brandon Warne wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, saying we will Alexei Casilla tomorrow night.
It was Little Red Rodeo that I was trying to remember.
But was it Colin Ray?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's wrap up. Let's feed some ducks and get out of here.
This is not Colin Ray music right now, though.
No.